Theodore Roosevelt, or Roosevelt if you're wrong. A character portrayed by Robin Williams in Night at the Museum, John Alexander in Arsenic and Old Lace, apparently Leonardo DiCaprio sometime soon. But what many people don't know is that Theodore Roosevelt was actually a real man who served as our 26th president of the United States of America. Roosevelt by no means had an uneventful presidency, from trust busting to acquiring land for the federal government to boxing people in the White House to killing an elephant. That was actually directly after his presidency, but still worth noting. No matter how you feel about the guy, there's no denying that he had an eventful presidency and accomplished quite a bit. But that is not what we're going to talk about today. The year is 1908, and Theodore Roosevelt had promised the public that he wouldn't seek a third term. So he decides to go off on a safari and kill some elephants, while William Howard Taft of bathtub fame takes the presidency. Now, the Taft administration had its own issues. Taft abused tariffs and had poor international relations. But mainly, he just failed to follow through on the Roosevelt policies. So, old Teddy decides to break his promise to the public and run for the presidency again in 1912. He once again ran as a Republican next to William Howard Taft and some other bozos, and he found that although he was very dissatisfied with the Taft presidency, the rest of the Republican voters weren't quite. Just in the primaries, Theodore Roosevelt's 466 delegates lost to William Howard Taft's 566 delegates. So Roosevelt, being completely unable to read the room and in keeping with his family tradition of overstaying one's welcome, decides to, instead of retiring in what grace he has left, create his own political party. Teddy decides to start the Bull Moose Party, a party that identified itself as progressive and liberal and even bordering on socialist for its time, but for today is just what the Republican Party is. So now under his new political aura of Bull Moose, he runs against William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, and some other third-party candidate in the general election. Surprisingly enough, even though he lost to Taft in the primary elections, he beats him out in the general election by about 4%. So now old Theo has achieved his goal of beating Taft. Unfortunately, he did not attain the more useful goal of beating Woodrow Wilson, who had 41.8% of the popular vote, a low percentage not seen in president-elects since the 1860s, and hasn't been seen since. Just by seeking that third term after being rejected, Teddy Roosevelt was able to subvert the democratic will of the people of the United States. Now you may be saying to yourself, that's how elections work. Sometimes people don't win by the popular vote. That's how the Electoral College works. But it's a little different this time. By being so popular and inserting himself as the alternative for the Republican Party's voter base, he split their voting power in half. Think of it this way, you're in a room with 10 people. Everyone in the room is hungry and they want to order a pizza. The two options that they know from the pizza place are cheese and pepperoni. Now, of course, the majority of the people in the room want the pepperoni pizza because that's a rational decision. The other 4 people in the minority want the cheese pizza because there is something wrong. However, since the pepperoni enjoyers still have the majority in the room, pepperoni is the type of pizza that they get. But now consider this. You get a call from the pizza place, and Teddy Roosevelt is on the other side of the line, and he's like,
yeah, this is presidential elections pizza place. I just wanted to let you know that we also have Supreme Pizza.
I don't know how Teddy Roosevelt sounded, but... Now those rational human beings who enjoy pepperoni pizza more than cheese pizza, but also still love Supreme Pizza, have to make a choice. Say, hypothetically, 3 of them go over to Supreme Pizza. Now that the votes are cast, the cheese pizza enjoyers are the ones who come out on top, because although they don't hold the majority, they still have the most votes. And now you have to get tomato cheese bread Woodrow Wilson, who nobody wanted. Now you may be saying to yourself, okay, I see how it could be Teddy Roosevelt's fault that Woodrow Wilson got into office, but ruined everything? Isn't that a little intense? No, it's not intense, and I'll show you. Since the Wall Street Panic of 1907, there had been this growing belief that we needed to reestablish a central bank. Now, centralizing something like that can be a good thing if it's on a small scale, essentially not centralized. Centralization can be very efficient, but it lacks an ability to deal with small-scale problems or even large-scale problems. But since our country is so big, large-scale problems are still small-scale problems because we're insane. I'm sorry if that explanation didn't make sense. I'm not a historian and I'm not an economist. But because of the scare in 1907, a centralized bank was heavily pushed by the Democratic Party. However, for the past 12 years, we'd only had Republican presidents who would not budge on that subject. But now we have Woody Wilson, who is more than happy to sign the Federal Reserve Act, which he does on December 23rd, 1913. Thank you, Theo. Theo! Rudy! Now, the merit of the Federal Reserve System is something that is debated quite often, but we do know that inflation rates that the main thing the Federal Reserve is supposed to regulate have gone up drastically since its implementation, and even more drastically after the gold backing was removed from it in 1971, which wouldn't have been possible without the Federal Reserve existing in the first place. Now, Woodrow Wilson did a lot more than just the Federal Reserve. He was a wartime president. Having a position of power in a time like that still affects us today. It did give America a slightly different stance in the world stage than it had before. Whether or not that's a good thing, I won't talk about. But at the very least, we do know that Woodrow Wilson was responsible for some level of inflation, and that's probably why I didn't get a Spider-Man 4. So, thanks, Teddy, for giving me Woodrow Wilson, who took away Spider-Man 4. I think it was just canceled for bad script writing, actually, but eh. But the moral of the story is, next time you're at a gas station and you want to purchase an Arizona Light half and half lemonade sweet tea can, and you thought it was going to be 99 cents, and it turns out it's actually like $1.29. Don't say thanks Biden, don't say thanks Trump, don't say thanks Obama, don't even say thanks Woodrow Wilson, say thanks Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know what I'm talking about.